So, welcome to the Probate Property Pro podcast. I'm your host, Dave Zimmerman. I'm a certified probate expert, and I'm a realtor with the Caza Group. And this is the show where attorneys, executors, administrators, and trustees come to get answers on how to sell probate properties in the most efficient and expedient manner possible. So, if you're settling an estate, and or you're a professional guiding someone doing that, then everything we cover is at theprobatepropertypro.com. That's the probatepropertypro.com. So check us out. So today's episode is a special one for me because I'm talking with Rob Chavez, the Chief Visionary Officer of the Caza Group. And together we're walking through a real story of a family in Northern Virginia who got the right team together with us and sold a probate property in some of the most extreme circumstances that a family can go through. So, welcome, Rob. Appreciate you joining us.
Dave, excited to be here, man. Excited to be here.
All right, perfect. Well, let's hop in here and talk a little bit about this. So, um, you know, this just kind of walk us through the story in your own words. The family reached out to you. Give us as much background as you think you can on the situation. We'll keep the names out of it just to keep privacy and everything going. So
Yeah.
tell us about the deal.
Yeah. So, interestingly enough, this is one of those situations where it's just like one of the worst, right? It's a friend who passed away unexpectedly, and um, his family now needs help,
Mhm.
needs help to settle the estate, sell the property, and they don't know where to start.
Mhm.
And so, I got a call. They broke the news to me, and we just started tackling this step by step because, Dave, as you know, this is really a step by step process when you're working through an estate. And some of the steps are really just in the beginning, um, seeking to understand, like, deep empathy about the situation, about what the family wants to do, because estates can be complicated,
Mhm.
right? Different siblings, different agendas, different timelines. So I got the call, and the first thing I did was just listen. Like, what does the family want to do in this situation? Right.
Definitely. Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the focuses that we always have in these situations when we're doing probate and estate sales, and that is what's best for the estate, what's best for the family, what do they need, right? So when they first
Yeah.
reached out to you, kind of what was the first question? Short of the shock, because I understand that this was a very sudden death of the family member, and there was no
Mhm.
will. So how'd
Yeah.
that work?
Yeah, it's who do we turn to? We don't know the proper steps. We were told that we could sell the property and not put it through probate. I'm like, I don't think that's the case, right?
No.
I'm like, why don't we talk to a trusted attorney as just a step one, right?
Mhm.
As a step one to figure out, what do you need to do? And we gave them, I believe, two or three names of attorneys that we've worked with, and let them choose the one that they're most comfortable with, the one that they connect with. And that's what we did, and that's what they did. And ultimately they decided on an attorney that, Dave, that you actually recommended, that you gave to me. And they loved her. They thought that she was perfect for the family, and she was really a good guide on all the legal things that they needed to do to comply with probate and
Mhm.
dying without a will, and making sure that it's done right, because the heirs, um, this was going to be a chunk of money that essentially the heirs were going to get, and they were young, right?
Mhm.
Young heirs. And so we wanted to make sure that we were maximizing the estate for the heirs. And so we didn't want to make any mistakes. We
Mhm.
wanted to make sure that they were well protected. God forbid you do the process wrong, and then it's just a nightmare for everybody. So step number one was putting them with the right guide to help them through the probate process.
the right legal advice. Yeah. And the attorneys that we refer to these folks are really good at this. Yeah, they have a lot of empathy. They can walk them through the process. They understand how tough it is on families. And so, um, and they all do trusts and wills too. So, I mean, they're very familiar with the entire process, right? So,
Yeah.
um, awesome. So, so once we introduced them to the probate attorney, of course, they found out that they did actually have to go through the probate process and all that because they were it was intestate, so the probate court had to become involved. And once they identified the heir that could actually sell the property, um, then we turned, I guess, to what's going on in the house and all that. So let's walk through that
Mhm.
process. Now,
Sure.
when we talk about, estate properties, our mantra is organize them first, then remove any of the stuff that you need to remove, and then prep them for sale. So, kind of walk us through, Rob, how that worked. I know that there were some very capable folks in the family that were doing things, so they kind of had the organization thing underway. So, take it
Mhm.
from there.
Mhm. Yeah, I think at that point it's really making an assessment based on what the family wants, right? Are they trying to maximize the asset value? So that means running comps, showing market comparables on like, okay, here's the condition of the current house. You guys see the condition of the current house. If we're trying to shoot for a higher number, this is what the condition of these homes look like. And so it's really first seeking to understand and figuring out what do they want to do? Do they actually want to do work and maximize the value of the asset, or do they just want to sell it in as is condition or somewhere in between, right? Because
Mhm.
there's kind of like max reno, there's as is pricing, and then there's this Goldilocks right in between. And we ended up deciding on kind of what I would call an upgrade, a Goldilocks
Mhm.
ish higher end,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And and so then we get to work. Once we determine that that's what the family wants and that's what we're looking to do, then we bring in our resources, which are typically contractors, to give
Mhm.
estimates on that work, whether it's painting or flooring or, countertops or whatever. Like we need to get an idea of like what it's going to cost in order to execute that, which is what we did. We
Yep.
provided that to them. We went back and forth on different things that we should do aesthetically, and then ultimately made a decision on how to move forward. And then it's just executing that play, Dave. From that point forward, as by the way, the probate was moving forward, like the probate with a lawyer is moving forward in the background. So we were doing a lot of this work in the background, as they were handling everything with the attorney.
So they're working this in parallel with the probate process. So it doesn't have to be sequential. You don't have to, you can get on with it. Um, even one of our offers that we have that we haven't talked about yet is our Renovate Now Pay Later program, which
Yeah.
some estates can use, if they want us to actually fund it. In this case, I don't think we did that. I think we just they were paying the contractors as they go, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. So how do we decide? I know that we ran comps in the neighborhood. We were kind of figured
Yeah.
out, okay, so if it's an as-is house, it kind of is in this range. If it's totally tricked out, like the one across the street sold for, top of the
Mhm.
market, and then somewhere in between. How'd that discussion go, and how'd you decide?
I think it's a combination of budget, what somebody's budget is, also risk tolerance. Like I think it's risky to put, quite honestly, too much into the project because sometimes the law of diminishing returns starts coming in. The idea is, can you put $1 in and then get, 2 to 3 back out? And normally, Dave, you do that by what I call polishing the penny. It is doing the least amount to get the most out, which is typically cleaning, flooring, upgrading and lighting, maybe upgrading carpet, fixing what's broken, changing some countertops, but not functionally moving walls or doing any of that stuff. Just let's just zhuzh it up a little bit and
Mhm.
make it one, something that the consumer is going to like. So it's got to be neutral, right? Something that the consumer is going to like. And then two, something that's not going to break the bank, but gets a good return on that investment. And so we went through a couple different scenarios, showed them the math associated with it. And they were like, cool, that makes a lot of sense. Let's go with this middle, polish the penny, you know, um, type of upgrade. And it worked out, right? We did that, and it took about a month to execute that work
Mhm.
from beginning then. And really, a lot of the work, Dave, was sometimes just deciding what's going to stay and what's going to go, right? Because we also have to stage. We believe
Mhm.
in staging our properties, because properties that are not staged normally sell for less because there's nothing to look at. Like when you enter into a house, you want to create an emotion as opposed to just it being a blank piece of paper. Well, you want to create some emotion. And so with the estate, it was, well, what should stay? What should go? What do we bring in for staging? What does that process look like? So there's a little education in that process, and then also an execution of that play.
So the staging was a bit of a hybrid of the existing furniture. I'm sure there was a lot of weeding out of furniture as well as I
Yeah,
recall. And then we brought in some
decluttering.
to accent
Yeah,
and do that. Mhm. Now,
correct.
in the renovations, let's talk about that for a second. I know we did the
Mhm.
floors, redid the floors there, new carpets. We painted the entire place. Um, uh, we did some in the bathrooms, and I think the kitchen was fairly good, and we didn't want to go
Yeah, we
into
didn't
that
touch anything.
expense, so we kind of did that. So in the bathrooms, we did a light refresh in there. What was that?
We changed the lighting. We changed some of the countertops. We changed the knobs, right? You can create a visual impact by just changing some things like hardware. Get the gold out and put something a little bit more modern in, more modern light, better lights, better light bulbs,
Mhm.
right? Warm lights as opposed to like the cold lights, changing mirrors. Like all those little things are low dollar but high impact, high return type of investments. You and I call those smart renovations. Like we want to do smart renovations.
These are the ones where you put $1 in and you get two or three back, which is
That's right.
perfect. Right, right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the end result then. The market, it went on the market. Wasn't on there for long, as I recall. We had a number of offers, so kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, one of the things that I always advise our clients on is being smart with pricing, right? Not only smart with the renovations that you make, but then smart with pricing. You don't want to ever push value. You want to be at or slightly below market value to create what I call the FOMO effect, right?
Mhm.
The fear of missing out. Like, oh, honey, if we don't go look at this house today, somebody else is going to get it. Why do we do that? Well, we do that because we know that by creating that FOMO effect, we can get the leverage to be in the hands of the seller versus the hands of the buyer, right? We represent the seller in this case. So we want to create as much leverage as possible to get the best price and the best terms. And in this instance, we did this. We went back and forth a little bit on the strategic price point and how price points matter and how they work. And I said, my suggestion is to go to the next price point down. I believe that if we do that, especially with where we're at in the market, the time of the year, I think we can create a great result. We did. We ended up getting six offers. It
Mhm.
escalated, I want to say 70 or 80,000 above the list price.
Nice.
They waived everything, right? So it's one of the things, it's not always just price, it's terms. Like, can we get them the waive appraisal, financing,
Mhm.
home inspection, you know, all of it. And in this case, we did because we put all the leverage in the hands of the seller, and in doing so, we command the best price, best terms, right?
Mhm.
And it works like clockwork.
Mhm.
It really does when it's done right.
And it works just about every time too. I mean, it's
Or it's
very
about just
rare.
every time.
It's very rare when we're surprised in a situation like this, it seems. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. So looking back on the whole thing, what's the, maybe the biggest surprise that you got in this scenario?
But Dave, we've been doing this 20 years, right? So no, there's not a lot of surprises these days. I think I was pleasantly surprised that we got as many offers as we did because the market has been feeling a little bit softer than other markets. Um, and something that I learned in the process, because you're certainly the probate expert and I'm not the probate expert, is how um, how the warranty deeds actually transfer over. I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit, but that was something that
Yeah.
that I learned in the process. And then also doing a um, a day of death appraisal to make
Mhm.
sure that when uh, the new tax basis is calculated, it's calculated on that day of death versus the original purchase price of the home. So I don't know if you want to speak to how the general warranty deed um, is kind of transferred over or not, right? But certainly you know more about that than I do.
Yeah, definitely. There's a standard warranty deed, which is most of the houses that sell here in Northern Virginia sell like that. Um, when you're in a probate situation, an estate situation, then attorneys typically will want you to close to transfer the deed with a special warranty deed. And the reason for that is that it removes any liability from the trustees, the executors, the administrators for that period of time that they had control of the house only, right? And that's
Yeah,
important even if they're an heir or one of the offspring of someone who owned the house, kind of doesn't matter.
yeah,
They want to be within that special warranty deed category. So that's one. Um,
yeah. Special warranty deed. I said general warranty deed, but you're right. Special warranty deed.
And the other things that we talk about a lot too that people don't really understand is the house was vacant for a while,
Oh yeah,
right? So that triggers a couple of things. The first thing is, um, you know, if the house is vacant, you put a no trespassing sign in the window. Because if you get a vagrant that moves in there, then you're going to be in court trying to get them out of there. And if you post it, you can get the police to come and kick them right out. So that's something that a lot of people don't know,
yeah. It's
about that. Um, yeah,
And
and
then the
let's
insurance, right? Like
yeah,
the
and the,
insurance.
and yeah, and the insurance is the second piece of it, and that is a vacant house insurance is different than an occupied house insurance.
Mhm.
So the first thing to do is to contact the insurance company and let them know that the house is vacant. Now that may not change a thing. They may say, "No, you're fine," or they may have a vacant house insurance policy that they have to do there. So
Dave, what's interesting is, you know, these particular clients wanted to do work to help maximize the estate for the heirs that were there.
Mhm.
But you and I have done plenty where people don't want to do anything. They inherit the property kind of by default. There's no emotional connection to it. There's maybe two or three heirs that have differing views of opinion on what should be done or not done. And sometimes it's easier just to do, nothing. And we have a way of being able to even maximize those sales, right? I know you did one here recently where I think it escalated over $100,000, and you guys didn't touch anything. You literally just said, "I just give it to me. I will make sure that I price it right. I know exactly the type of buyer that's going to buy this particular property." You marketed to those kind of buyers, and and they just took what they wanted from the house and left all the rest,
yeah,
and you made it happen,
yeah,
right?
that was
So I don't
yeah.
want people to think that you need to do work. You don't.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool story because I was the third realtor in, okay, and I was
Mhm.
meeting with two of the four sisters who were the offspring. The mother had passed away recently, and so when I met with them, the first thing I did is sat down and said, let's talk about what you all want to do. And I said, first question, just a simple question. What are the other realtors telling you what to do, telling you to do, right?
Yeah.
And
Good question.
the lead daughter who of the two, looks at me and she says, "Yeah, they want us to like clean it up, fix it up, fix it up, redo the bathrooms, redo the kitchens." And as she's telling me this, she's just her body language is, "And can I just, like shoot myself in the head? I don't want to do
She's like, I don't want to do this. Yeah, because
it."
people don't realize it's like a whole nother job,
Oh,
right?
well, it's the
It
second
is a whole
job
nother
for a
job.
lot of
Right.
people, and a lot of people don't want that second job. So,
Yeah.
so I said, well, it's interesting that you mentioned that. I said, and they also said, we didn't grow up here. We don't have any physical attachment to this house. We just don't, I said, what do you want to do? We don't want to do anything. I said, that's perfect. I said, you don't even have to vacuum if you don't want to. I will sell it with all the stuff in it. Just take whatever you want and leave it to me. And they were like, we love you. You're hired. Let's go. And we did exactly that. And the reason that we did that is because of our knowledge, Rob, that you and I and our team has developed over the years. And that is, what's going to happen to this house, right? Well, in this particular case, it was a pretty great lot and the house wasn't that great. And so we thought, you know what? There's going to be a builder that's going to buy this, and there's a bulldozer in the yard the next day. And that's exactly what
Yeah.
happened, right? So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah. So as is houses, there's nothing wrong with doing that. We ended up on that one. We priced it, like you said, competitively to bait the market, and we got 28 offers on that, and we sold it for $168,000 more than we
Wow.
listed it for. So
Wow. Wow.
crazy, crazy.
Yeah.
And that's what leverage does for you, and we know that as well. So anyway, so as his houses are very legit, we've sold 4 or 5 of them that were estate and probate related this year, where we simply went in and or helped them organize. We helped them remove all the stuff in the house. We actually, the only thing that we did for prep was to send a cleaner in there and clean it so that it didn't look like, it was
Hmm.
nasty. Put it on the market as is, boom, sold all of them with multiple offers, most of them above asking price. So it was that's how that works, and
Yeah.
that's our organize, remove, and prep piece of what we do at Probate Property Pro.
Yeah. It's interesting because there's lots of not one step is complicated, but there's lots of little steps that have to happen in the right sequential order in order to really make it work. And so you need to know all those little logical steps, like, oh, you got to do this before that. You got to make sure you call this person before that person in order to really help the family maximize the estate. Because sometimes people just have, like you said, false assumptions about what has to happen, right?
Mhm.
Like, oh, I've got to fix this or I've got to renovate. I'm like, no, not necessarily. Not if the land is worth more than the house and a
Mhm.
builder is going to buy this, right? And because we've been doing this now for so long, like we know which are those houses and which are the houses that might benefit by getting some work done. You and I did one in a community that I live in, which is a mid-century modern community, and we knew, oh boy, if you put like 50 or 60,000 into this house, if the estate has the ability to do that, you're going to double your
Yeah,
money on that, which is
that's
what happened in that
That's
particular
exactly what they
case.
did. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
they wanted to. That was the only asset that was really significant in the trust. And this one was a trust, and the trustee happened to live in Seattle, right? So she wasn't coming here every week to do that.
Yeah.
But the goal of the estate was, let's maximize the physical property when we sell it so that we can disperse as much money as we can to the beneficiaries, right? And so
Yeah.
that's exactly what we did. Turned out great. Sold it in the first weekend, over asking price, same thing. But that was a total renovation. That was really good job. And I think they spent
Yeah.
what, 68 grand, and then we ended up selling it for 150 more than we would have sold it as is. So yeah.
As is. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. For
Cool.
sure. So the lesson is this, every house um, has a different outcome based on what the executors of the estate want to do. So number one, it's like, let's seek to understand what does the estate want to do?
Mhm.
And then number two, well, based on those goals, we're going to come up with a plan of action, whether it's as is, whether it's a polish the penny type of renovation, whether it's a max type of renovation to completely max out the price of the house. And then timelines matter. Like, does this thing need to get done before a particular time? And if so, that might determine how much money is actually put into it. So we need to understand the full picture. Once you understand the full picture, then you can come with a tailored plan specifically for the estate and for the asset itself. So
Yeah,
that's really the first step, right? I always say, like, we really need to understand the entire picture, and then we can, like a professional, just give guidance on experience, what we've seen and how it works and next steps. And then we organize, like you said, all of those steps to create a seamless process, right? So to go back to my friend's house, that property settled in 3 weeks. Literally
Mhm.
from the time like we went under contract to settlement was 3 weeks. The longest part was just getting it through the probate process. Once we got it through the probate process, we then were able to execute the plan, fairly quickly.
Yeah, that just made me think of another situation too that happened a couple of times this year, actually, reverse mortgages on some of these estate
Oh, yes.
properties. And
Mhm.
the thing that you said that made me think of it was the time limitation. So some of these estates only have a certain amount of time because if you have a reverse mortgage, the reverse mortgage company will come fairly quickly after and foreclose on it if you don't sell it and get going, right? And
Yeah.
um, so yeah, we've done two or three of them this year that are like that. So that also plays into, what do you do? Do you sell it as is? Do you polish the penny? Do you renovate? How much time do you have to do that? So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many things involved in probate and estate properties that a lot of agents, typical agents, don't even know, right? And so that's one of our you know real value propositions that we bring to folks in the Caza Group, and that's one of our verticals. What are a couple of the other verticals that we do in the Caza Group too? Just to kind of give some idea.
Yeah, we work a lot with builders, developers, investors, right? So multi-transactional clients. We understand their unique needs. They're small business owners, so we help those business owners maximize their assets or find assets that are good to make a good return on. So that's one niche. Other are hyperlocal neighborhoods. Like we have certain agents that have really targeted hyperlocal communities because we really believe that real estate is all community based, right? All focused, and we call that zoning markets. So you can zone a geographic market, or you can zone a geographic slash psychographic market, meaning like, working with builders, developers, landlords in Arlington, then that would be geographic and psychographic combined. So we really believe in becoming experts at things, which is why this vertical is so important because when you can become an expert, you like at something within a practice, you then just add so much more value for the clients. You help them win, and these are big life moves that are a lot of money for families. And so you need an expert to help execute that plan, which, this is why I love helping people through these types of situations because they're not just your cookie cutter vanilla, I help you buy, sell a house, right? There's a certain level of complexity and we thrive in that complexity.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I haven't shown you this. I just got a 5-star review from a property we closed on last week actually, that was a probate property, and it was a testate probate property. Also involved a court appointed commissioner, special commissioner. And usually when that happens, that means there's some family feuding going on somewhere. So
Mm-hmm.
like you say, our expertise that we bring, we do STRs as well,
Oh yeah.
short-term rental stuff. We do downsizing. I mean, there's a lot of verticals within the Caza Group that are quite excellent. So, um, wow. Well, Rob, thanks for chatting with us and hanging out with us a little bit this afternoon.
No,
So,
man, I appreciate it. Yeah, this is important. So important work. Thanks for having me, Dave. I appreciate it.
you are welcome. And yeah, thanks for visiting us on the Probate Property Pro, and visit our site, theprobatepropertypro.com. And you can check out all of our offerings, and there's a link there to Caza as well. So, Rob, appreciate it. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you the next time.
Sounds great.
All right.
Take care.